Today about the art of protecting yourself from the sun. I got a sunburn this morning. Now I'm here to talk to you about the art of personal branding. Next slide, please. So the first question I always get is, why do I even need a personal brand in the first place? There we go. So a personal brand helps you stand out from the crowd. It leads to opportunities, it inspires trust, and it gives you control, influence, and power over your own destiny. Your personal brand is not about who you are, your personal brand is not about what you are, it's about who you are and what makes you unique. And just remember, someone these days is always going to be looking at you online, even when you don't know it. So that's why a strategy is really important, because your personal brand is not defined by your job title, your resume, your certifications. Your personal brand tells your target audience what you stand for, what you believe in, and how you can offer your target audience value. So, if you can't read the text on this image, it says, Kim Kardashian's Guide to Personal Branding. Step 1, be Kim Kardashian. Step 2, put your name on everything. What? It sounds silly, but honestly, it's not completely wrong. That turned out weird. But, okay. So, how personal should your brand be? Well, first, you need to determine if you even want a separation between your personal and your professional life. You don't actually have to separate them. All that matters is what you want. If you're not comfortable with being personal in your personal brand, then you don't have to be. You can dial it back, you can pull it back. Just like how you might be able to tell that I am actually a little bit uncomfortable right now because my suit is too tight. Or maybe I just ate too much panseo last night. So just think about what makes you comfortable and then use it in your personal brand. But remember, authenticity is key. If you're not authentic, people are going to start getting suspicious. Oh, sorry, next slide. Yeah. So if you're not authentic, people are going to start getting suspicious, and you're going to see them start making faces like that one. They're going to think that you're acting fake, and you never, ever, ever want that. You don't want people to think that you're a liar, because there's no way back from that. So you're an audience full of students, and I figured, why not use a quote from some dead guy? Because I'm sure that you hear a lot of those in class already. So please bear with me, because I felt that this quote was actually important enough to share with you all today. So, above all, don't lie to yourself. The one who lies to themselves and listens to their own lie gets to a point where they cannot distinguish between the truth within them nor around them. And thus, they lose all respect for themselves and for others. This is a quote from Dostoevsky. He's a Russian philosopher from the 1800s. Also a dead guy. So, put simply, this quote just means don't lie to yourself. A lie is something that you make yourself believe in order to make life just a little bit easier. But in reality, it's not. A lie is something that you want to believe because to consider the opposite would hurt your ego too much. But a lie will destroy you, inside and out. This is why it's so important to be yourself. But you may be wondering, how do I even find myself in the first place? Who am I? Knowing yourself is really important. Knowing yourself is really important. Understanding why you have the reactions that you do, understanding why you dislike some things and like some other things. The goal is to figure out what work you want to do and the gifts that you have that you want to actually share with the world. A good place to start with that is the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, also known as the personality test. I'm sure that many of you have already done this. Good? All good. Next slide. We're a bit, there we go. Okay, so the MBTI, that's the 16 personalities test. If you have not done it yet, I really suggest you do it after you leave here today. Because the goal is to figure out what work you want to do, and this will help you. So, my only advice when taking the test is answer honestly, and try not to leave any neutral answers when you're doing it. This way you'll get a more true result, a more true reflection of who you are. And this is important because your brand should always be a truthful reflection of your values, as our other guests have already said today. You're going to hear it a lot. So authenticity means being true to one's personality, spirit, and character. Digital reputation management is the method through which you present your best self to the world. Next slide. So, first things first, you need a good photo. I cannot stress this enough. That is obviously not a good photo. It is a dog, but I hope you get my point. Next slide. So think of it just like Tinder. If your first photo of your profile isn't you in your best form, you're not going to get as many swipes to the right. This works the same way everywhere else, actually. Your image is the hook that you need for people to approach you and talk to you. And in today's online world, your image on Facebook or LinkedIn might be the only time anyone ever sees you. And so you need it to look good in order to get people to talk to you. You have seen the first impression challenge. Sorry about that. Back one slide. We'll leave it on that. So humans are, just a second, sorry about that. Okay, so I'm sure some of you have seen the first impression challenge that has started to trend on Facebook recently. Well, humans are visual creatures, and your profile picture on Facebook and LinkedIn is most often your first impression these days. Authenticity and personal branding is about being mindful of the way that you make yourself appear to the world. It means being conscious of that first impression that you're going to make. And that all starts with your style and your image. It starts by understanding that your personal brand means that you should look like you and not someone else. People are more likely to respond to your brand if they see a photo of a person. When, for example, if you have ever made a post on Facebook and you only wrote text but no image, I'm sure that you've noticed that the engagement on that post is much lower. Okay, next slide. So, 90% of communication is nonverbal. That means that it's coming through your hand gestures, the way you stand, and the way that you move. Or basically everything about you that doesn't actually come out of your own mouth. And there's a lot. Next slide. I'm often asked by people if being authentic means you get to say whatever you feel, but this isn't actually true. Being authentic means you know what's appropriate and that you learn the art of self-editing so that you say whatever resonates the best with your target audience. Since 90% of information communicated is nonverbal, no matter what words are coming out of your mouth, if your body language doesn't match, then people are going to become skeptical. They're going to start being suspicious. They're going to stop believing what you're saying, and they're going to start thinking that you're a liar if your nonverbal communication does not match your verbal. And you never want people to think you're a liar. So, here's 3 different body language tips for you. Eye contact. Show them that you have respect for them. Make eye contact. Show them that they have your attention. Second, pay attention to the movement of your hands. If you talk with your hands and you aren't holding two objects at the same time, like I am, then make sure that you leave them with your palms open. This shows you that you're welcoming and approachable. Do not point. Do not karate chop. These are very forceful and aggressive motions that the human mind subconsciously sees as aggression, and it will turn people off from you and cause them to think that you are unapproachable. Pay attention to your posture too. I know I don't have the best posture. I tend to hunch a little bit and roll my shoulders forward, but try rolling your shoulders back right now and see how it feels. Put your chest out a little bit. Sit up straight. You'll feel more confident as a result, and it really does work. Mind does have power over matter. So, people like social anxiety like myself usually try to take up as little space as possible, but practice makes perfect. So I really do suggest rolling your shoulders back when you walk into a public space. You will notice the difference. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you guys can't read this, but the next thing is re-entering the world of written and verbal communication. So that starts with choosing your 3 words. And if you can't read the text, this person's 3 words are young, broke, and fabulous. I know that's funny, but we're going to dig a little bit deeper than that. Next slide. So, these 3 words will become crucial to your brand's identity, whether or not you share them with anybody else in the world. They'll become so important because they will be your guiding principles for your personal brand. Here's some tips for choosing your 3 words. Spend a good 15 minutes thinking of yourself and what you have to offer the world. Which 3 words come to mind? For example, I'm Wes Jackson. I'm intentional. Every word is there for a reason in my communication. I'm realistic. I keep the scope of my projects practical, and I'm to the point. I don't like to waste time. You might notice that my 3 words are a bit, honestly, boring. They're a bit boring. But that's because I recently merged my personal and my professional brand together. And as you can see, I'm still working on it. So if you need more help figuring out your 3 words, I suggest that you try asking your 10 closest friends or colleagues. Just ask them, describe me in 3 words. You can do this just over a coffee. It takes no time at all, but it will really tell you what other people think of you, which will maybe give you a better idea of who you think you are. Another question that you can ask is think about how you would like to be remembered after you have left this world. And is that the way that you're known today? Probably not. There's probably a big gap. Next slide. So, these 3 words are so important because they will help guide you when you're creating your mission statement. Next slide. Your mission statement, it's important. It helps you focus on how to meet your long-term goals. It serves as a guidepost for where you want to go in life. Your mission statement should not be more than 3 sentences. It should be something that you can memorize, something that you can share with people, and it's also known as the elevator pitch, which I'm sure some of you have heard of. The elevator pitch or mission statement is what helps you figure out what your core values are and what you really want to do in this world. Your 3 words and your mission statement together form the infrastructure of your personal brand. After you've gone through these personal branding exercises, you'll be able to go out and promote yourself in a much more clear manner because you've done all of this work already. That's why it's so important. You know who you are, you know what your values are, and you'll be able to easily communicate all of this to complete strangers. So you've basically got 30 seconds anytime that you meet a stranger to tell them who you are. And if you aren't able to grab their attention within those 30 seconds, most people are going to move on. So here's 3 steps to building the perfect elevator pitch. First, start off by telling them what you do. Who are you in only 10 seconds? Are you able to answer that right now? Probably not. It's hard. It takes time and effort to work on this. The second step, what makes you unique? If they're looking for somebody with your specialty, then you already have their attention. Finally, the third recommendation is tell people a quick story. People love stories. Paint them a picture with your words. People remember stories. So I'm going to tell you a quick story right now that I'm sure that you'll remember for the rest of the night, at least. I used to be really, really shy. Up until very recently. I still am sometimes because, believe it or not, I am an introvert. Anyway, I was 3 years old, I was in preschool, and I'm up on stage, and we're supposed to be giving this performance to the parents. We're supposed to be singing. And little 3-year-old Wes is so shy that he turns around for the entire performance, and I face the wall. Yeah. I did that for about 90% of the performance. But look at me now, I'm up here, I may be sweating, but I'm talking in front of all of you. It's only the second worst thing to death itself. So it's important to keep your elevator pitch concise and interesting. Imagine if you were scrolling through your social media feed on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and you see a video of yourself introducing yourself to strangers. Would you stop scrolling, or would you ignore it and move on? That's a really good thing to think about. Are you interesting enough to yourself? If not, you're not going to be interesting to anybody else either. So, use your elevator pitch to start a conversation. It's not a script. And make sure to have different versions of it for different contexts. For example, here's mine. I give you the gift of time so that you get to spend it with your friends and family. My clients usually get 5 hours back each week in time so that they get to spend it with the ones that they love. They can spend this time on anything, whether it's socializing or relaxing. And I do this by managing your digital marketing so that you don't have to. Next slide. So, you might be wondering, which platforms should I be on? You're going to have to choose because, sorry, you probably can't be on all of them right now. If you're just one person or just somebody that has a small team of friends or interns, it's going to take a lot of work to manage your social media. It's not easy work. It might seem easy on the surface from all of the people who get thousands of likes, millions of likes, but there is a lot of work going on in the background. So, next slide. So, the way to do this, the way to figure out which platforms you should be on, is by determining your target audience. This is the core of whether or not your content is successful. Because if your target audience does not match your content, your engagement is just going to be non-existent. So, some questions to ask when determining your target audience. What's their age, gender, location, education? Where do they hang out online? Where do they hang out offline? What are their goals and motivations? And probably most importantly, what are their frustrations, or what are also known as pain points? Figuring out all this information will help you learn which platforms your target audience is actually on, and that's where you need to be. When starting out, don't try to be on more than 3 platforms at once. Honestly, I usually recommend most people to stick to just 2. For example, I only do Facebook and LinkedIn. I have an Instagram, but I haven't touched it in years. This is because, like I said, social media management can be a lot of work. But there are different ways to lessen this workload. Automation software, getting really good at time and task management, or even creating social media content calendars. So, all of this personal branding work paves the way for you to build influence in the world around you. Next slide. So, your current brand might be here, but you want it to be here. In the end, you need metrics in order to measure that. This will help you make course corrections if you need to. Defining your personal brand, it needs consistency, not perfection. You should never chase perfection because it's not necessary in this case. Next slide. So, the question probably leads you to the idea of networking. Where are some places that you can network? Well, I like to think that you can network anywhere, except for funerals. Company meetings, business events, even at a cafe, on the airplane, if we're ever allowed to fly out of this country again. Even in the elevator of your own office or apartment building. These are all networking opportunities for you, as long as you pitch it the right way to your target audience. When I teach networking, I like to call it intentional networking. This is because I want the emphasis to be on designing a networking strategy for you that meets your own personal brand goal. The first thing is finding the decision makers. These are the people who can transact with you, hire you, and even promote you. These are the second category, information sources. These are people who may or may not be decision makers, but they're people that know their stuff and they have unique insights and industry information. They might know a lot about trends in different industries as well, for example. These people can really add value when you try to be competitive in your personal brand positioning. The last type of person that I would look for when you're networking are supportive people. I've got mine in the audience here already. They really do matter, because without a support system, all of this hard work is eventually going to get to you, and it will become too much to bear sometimes. You don't always want to be writing a social media post at 12 midnight. Sometimes you want to go to sleep. When we look at networking as a concept, it's all about the win-win situation, mutually beneficial relationships. It's not just about what I can do for you or how you can help me. It has to be reciprocal. Networking is a relationship tool. It allows you to highlight your value proposition, and it allows you to stand apart from your competition in a way that you get to design. Next slide. So, 3 tips for building an intentional networking strategy. First, be a resource of information. Focus on building the relationship and meeting your contacts where they are, not just by focusing on what you need. I've built great networking relationships in the past just by connecting somebody that I know with another close colleague of mine. They're so grateful that they actually stay connected to me as a result, and then they see me as valuable. The second tip, stay in touch. Don't just think of networking as a one-time thing that you use to get something. It's about building relationships, and it will come back to reward you over time. As your career grows and you find additional ways of building synergy with your contacts. Third, always be genuine. This is critical for networking. If you show that you're real and human, and that you have hopes and dreams and desires, people are going to want to help you. They'll want to help be a part of your personal brand journey. If people suspect that you have ulterior motives or secret strategies that you're hiding behind them, they are going to put their guard up and they will not share themselves with you. So, show your authenticity and engage your network. This will help you build your career and your professional life. Next slide. So, the best way to do this is through brand consistency. Next slide. You should update at least twice a week, but no more than 5 times a week. This is because the worst thing that can happen, maybe not the worst, but one of the worst things that can happen is people forgetting you. You see the girl in this photo? You want to make sure that she's dreaming of you when they're taking a nap at the office. That's a joke, but I hope you understand what I mean. You have to always be top of mind when people are thinking of contexts that are related to you. If they think Wes Jackson, I want them to think digital marketing. So, the reason why I say no more than 5 times a week is because you don't want to spam people. If you spam people, they're going to leave and they're not going to come back. If you need help, you can use what's called the Pareto principle, also known as the 80-20 rule. 80% of your content should be of interest to the people that follow you. 20% of your content can be for self-promotion. Next slide. So let's talk about automation and what's good about it. For example, I have to update one of my clients' social media feeds every morning at 4 a.m. I'm obviously not going to get up at 4 a.m. and write a Facebook post. This is why scheduling and automation really is helpful. Another great use of automation is, let's say, for example, you need to take a vacation. You don't want to leave your followers without fresh content. So before you go on vacation, you can set aside some time to find some great articles and release them on a schedule. Scheduling your posts gives you a clear idea also of what your brand's output is going to look like in a certain time period. And this is what helps you create a content calendar. It sounds really scary planning out an entire month of posts, but it is possible because I do it every day for clients. But there are downsides to automation. If your content comes across as being done by a robot or being very fake, it can be very obvious. And that can destroy any sense of personal connection that you want your audience to have with you. It can be very tempting to set your updates and then forget about them and disappear off of social media for a while. But if you do this, that's a huge mistake. If people follow you across all the social media platforms that you're on and you have automatic posting set, for example, they're going to get really tired really fast if you're sharing the same content across all the same platforms. So that's why you need to keep it slightly unique for each platform. And even if you do go on vacation, it's important to still stay involved in conversations that are happening because they're going to happen with or without you. So do you want to be involved in them or not? Next slide. Okay, so let's review some of the social media basics as they relate to personal branding. First, it's important to stay genuine. This is not the place for you to try and be somebody that you're not. You can't be an imposter and put on a costume thinking that it's going to make you look better or smarter. You want to showcase your personal brand and values and let people see who you are. Whether or not you want to be friendly, approachable, professional, let that come through in the tone and images of your content. But on the other hand, if you're building a exclusive, reserved brand, then maybe you don't want to get too casual with your audience. But either way, it's important to engage and participate in the conversation, just like you would in person. For example, if I walked up to you in person and I said, "Hey, how are you?" Would you just ignore me? No. So you should respond back to those Facebook messages that you get. And also, the last thing is never forget that everything that happens online can be public, even private messages. So, last but not least, you may be wondering, how do I use my personal brand to further my professional career? Well, when you look at your career, next slide. So, when you look at your career and where you are right now, can you honestly answer the question of how did you get here? Did you design it, or did someone design it for you? You're going to be having to ask yourself this question once you enter the workforce. You are all in a very unique position right now as students to design your own career path. This is the best time to do that, is before you actually enter the workforce. I remember talking to one of my clients, and I asked them this exact same question, actually. I asked them, "How did you get into marketing?" She answered, "Well, I just took jobs because somebody thought I would be good at it, or someone offered me more money. And then I moved in that direction. I didn't really set out with a strategy." This is dangerous, because more often than not, it's going to lead to a midlife crisis. It can also result in burnout. One day you might wake up and find out, "I don't want to do marketing anymore." So this is why now is the best time to figure out what you actually want. Otherwise, you could send your life into a downward spiral. Okay. So, personal branding is for anybody that's looking to take control of their destiny and bring intention into their career. Personal branding gives you the opportunity to take a moment, stop, look at where you are, and ask yourself, where do I want to be going forward? So when you think about the personal branding process, I like to describe that it takes the randomness out of your career, and it allows you to create a game plan and a strategy that helps you make smart decisions. You might take a moment now and think 5 years out. Who do I want to be? What am I passionate about? Who inspires me? What skills and talents do I have that I would love to grow? These are all really important questions that will really help you figure out your personal brand and where you want to go in life. So tomorrow, I want all of you to take a look at where you are. Figure out what you would love to do with your career, and then determine what it might take to get there. So, I'm Wes Jackson from Omega Digital.